Hello and welcome to Tete with me, Suhel Seth, and brought to you by the Prava Khaitan Foundation. And you just saw that beautiful introduction. Every time I hear it, it kind of transports you, doesn't it, Suhel?
It's fantastic.
It's so
Only the
beautifully
civilized people of Bengal have this ability to rouse you through both music and words. And I think it's fabulous to have this anthem.
Yeah, it is really beautiful. And I think Anjum is going to join us. She's been having some internet issues. But let's just dive into it. Suhail, we already have quite a gang waiting for us. This time we're bringing Suhail to you in a very different avatar. I know that there have already been questions, about what's happening with the farm laws, and Suhail hasn't spoken about it as yet on the channel, but we'll get to those at another time. At this point of time for Teta T, we're going to actually be discussing about social media, the online and offline deception of social media. And who better than Sohail? He's been on a roll all morning, tweeting. And if you follow him on Instagram, which I do, you'll find a very different aspect. You'll find a very apolitical Sohail on Instagram, and with lovely images and photographs and all of those things that Insta loves. And of course, Facebook is again, we're friends on Facebook too. Suhail, actually, I'm with you almost everywhere. Have you missed? Are you on any other social media? LinkedIn?
No, no.
You know, not on LinkedIn.
Well,
So
I'm
he's
on
on.
LinkedIn, but I don't care about, I don't follow it or contribute to it. Unlike you,
Likewise.
I'm
So
busy.
or of course you are. Anybody can see how many times I tweet in a day and how many times you do. But Suhail, tell me one thing: which is your favorite social media platform?
I don't have any favorite social media platform. I use them as anyone would, from a compartmentalized strategic manner. Twitter is basically for current affairs. Facebook is for community building. Instagram is for sharing the good that's around. So I have lots of people who approach me, and unlike a lot of people who you and I both know, I don't, take freebies and all that. So someone is saying, we're sending you this food. I always say, look, I want to pay something. I want to do the boni. And then obviously, if the food is good, you talk about it. If the food is bad, you don't say anything. But I think Instagram is a great way of promoting young people, young talent, restaurants, cafes, home chefs. Uh, During the pandemic, I used it a lot. I used, in fact, Twitter even more than Instagram to talk about oxygen availability, beds.
I
I
saw that.
forever used Twitter to talk about the need for blood donation and actually flag off where blood was required. So I don't think there's one size fits all. It's also not important that you use social media only for yourself. Uh, you know, Only for yourself. You should also use it for the community, and that's how it is.
Sahil, there's also this toxic aspect of social media as well. The trolling, the abuse. Recently, we saw when India lost the cricket match, there were all kinds of abuse being heard, some of it originating from Pakistan. So using, our fault lines as well. It's become also a tool for psychops, wherein, you create further divisions in society. And it could be external forces, it could be internal forces. How do you view this role that social media is playing?
It's what's happened and what's been happening from time immemorial. You always had rotten apples. You always had people whose only path is a path laced with destructiveness and destruction. You have to ignore them. You can't be replying to every rabid dog who has something to say. First, these jokers hide under the cover of anonymity. Number two, they have no locus standi. It's easy for people to fling mud on people, but it's very difficult for people to be even half the kind of achievers that some of the people that they throw mud at are. So I don't even care. I've had a rule. If you're abusive, I block you. No questions asked. Why? I don't need toxic jerks in my life. And I don't need people who have nothing good to say but are just being abusive for no rhyme or reason.
Hmm.
Earlier in the good old days, I used to, abuse them back. But then I said, why the hell am I getting down to their level?
Yeah.
Why should I? So now I just ignore them and then they get the message. I mean, you'd be shocked. A lot of the jokers will then send you direct messages or send you messages through existing followers saying, oh, sir, galti ho gayi, please unblock me and all. I refuse.
It's happened with
Because
me. A lot of
these are
people
the
have written to me and said,
chameleons. Yeah,
ask
and these are
Suhel.
the scoundrels you must never forgive because, frankly, I have 4.7 million followers on Twitter.
Hmm.
I don't really care. I don't care. I don't think it's a big achievement. I don't think it's a small achievement. It's there, fine. You don't want to follow me, by all means. It's not my bread and butter. I don't charge for any tweet. I don't do any paid partnerships. I don't really promote brands for money. So for me, it is not a means of survival or a means of recognition. People don't meet me on the road or in offices, or clients don't say, oh, because you're on Twitter, we're with you. So, frankly, and that is the imperviousness with which you must deal with these jokers. These jokers are baiting for you to respond. Because when you
Hmm.
do, then you get down to their level. It's that famous thing, never get into a fight with a pig. You get dirty and the pig enjoys it.
Hmm.
Simple.
Hmm. Hmm. How do it's all the buzz now. You have actually social media marketing companies. You're a marketing guy. You've done this for decades, from politicians to corporates. You've worked the whole gamut. Now there's actually a demand that, what is your social media presence? What is your footprint? You're not a politician. You're not a movie star. You have 4.75 million followers. How do you explain that?
I guess because of what I've been saying all along, and I followed the path of. I don't follow a middle path or a left path or a zero or a right path. I just follow common sense. And let me tell you, 90% of our country is filled with people who are reasonable human beings. These are
Yeah.
good people. They are people who care about the country. These are people who are neither left of center or right of center. These are normal, decent human beings who want only three things: a good quality of life, dignity, and decency. So, when you have these kind of people, then you don't worry about the rest. And, obviously, I always pepper my tweets more often than not with sarcasm, with satire. People love a good laugh. See, there's so much of anger, there's so much of rage in our country. And social media, and more than anything else, Twitter, has fanned the flames of rage. Rage is not a quality that endears or engenders. Rage is a quality that destroys and diminishes. Do you really want to be in that thing? If you're upset with people, get off Twitter. Yeah, there's no point. So I enjoy myself. Do I get trolled? Of course, you get trolled. Does
Yeah.
it matter? No. You don't have to have a thick skin. That would be incorrect for me to say, oh, you need a thick skin. What you need is a logical skin. You need to understand that there will always be people who will have a view distinct from yours, different from yours. It was famously said, I don't care if you disagree, but I do get upset if you're disagreeable. We have to understand the difference between disagreeing and being disagreeable. More often than not, we are disagreeable. We take too many things to heart. You should see the kind of abuse people. I mean, someone's writing about his book, you abuse them. Someone's writing about a movie, you abuse them. You abuse children of celebrities, children of actors, children of politicians. I mean,
Hmm.
for God's sake, what kind of an upbringing do you come from? What kind of pedigree do you have? So it's it's sad, but I'm no one to judge. To each his own. Will I follow a path littered with destructiveness and disgust? No.
Yeah, and it's, Sohail, also the other thing that is really rampant on Twitter is cancel culture. Very recently, J.K. Rowling went public on social media and talked about how, because of her particular approach to transgender, and the fact that it's now menstruating persons and not women, is the term, and her gender based politics and identity, she's taken a stance against that. She doesn't agree with the definitions that are being floated by the left in the West in particular. as a result of which she's been trolled very heavily. She's been cancelled. In fact, Harry Potter has their 20th anniversary celebration. She's not part of that. Imagine, I mean, she's the one who created Harry Potter. Then recently, some trans activists posed outside her home and revealed her address, and basically what's called in social media parlance doxed her, and she came out and spoke against it. So this kind of rampant cancel culture also is very vicious and very alive on social media.
Yeah, but that's because we call it cancel culture. To hell with them, yeah. What cancel culture? Can I cancel you? Can I cancel your achievements? Can I cancel the film scripts that you've written? Can I cancel your intellect? Can I cancel your integrity? I can't. What is this bloody cancel culture? Cancel culture. It's to my mind, this is all ridiculous. These are terms that are used to show that you're very woke and you're very hip and you're very with it. It's all bullshit if you ask me. Pardon the French. But it's utter rubbish. The reality is that jokers who have invented cancel culture are people who would not either be cancelled or accepted. So it's very easy for them to run, to my mind, a social media mob. But a mobocracy cannot determine the destiny of people. I can't, because I abuse you, determine what you do next. So I think it's stupid. Plus, the amount of hatred we have for religion, amount of hatred we have for political ideologies, it's spilling over to the ludicrous. Earlier, it was intolerable. Now it's ludicrous. People are
Yeah.
taking potshots, and you know what their agenda is. So they're so stupid that they can't even hide their agenda. They don't even have a whiff of a facade of impartiality or what I would call a balanced approach. I mean, they're outright stupid. So when you're dealing with intellectually innocent people, you have to deal with them on a discounted factor. Like, many a time on your program, there are many people who ask stupid questions.
Yeah.
Now, why are they asking these stupid questions? They ask these stupid questions. I'll tell you why. They want to be relevant. They think by provoking, by baiting, someone will respond and then they'll become relevant. Oh my God, this guy asked this question. But actually, they are stupid. You should treat them with as much of disdain as they deserve. Because if your question is not mired in logic or in reality, or to my mind, with some level of factuality, then you don't deserve to be here. You can keep asking questions. हमारे देश में क्वेश्चंस पूछने वाले तो बहुत ही हैं. Every guy and his mother wants to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. You ask a person, are you coming from, are you going to Coimbatore tomorrow? His answer will be, but why? Give an answer, yeah.
Or if you say I prefer mangoes to bananas, they'll be like, why are you discriminating against
Absolutely.
bananas?
Absolutely. And then there are the other set of jokers, including some on the chat right now. Oh, but what should you say? You're speaking from a position of privilege. Of course, I'm speaking from a position of privilege. If you were that bright, you'd be on the panel with Advaita Kala. But you're not. So
Oh
suffer.
God.
That's the reality. The tragedy is we are too goddamn politically correct and we want to hold everyone with kid gloves. It doesn't work. People will abuse you because of what you've achieved. Bhai, if I have achieved it, मैंने अपने बूते से किया है, आप कर लो फिर. आपके इतने लाटू लगे हैं, as my grandmother would say, you do it. You're a puny little non-performing asset who wants to piggyback on people through abuse. I can understand if you want to learn. I have helped so many people in my life, not because I need to, but because I want to. Why? Because God has given me more than I even bargained for. Why? Because my parents gave me blessings that I'd never imagined would translate into what I've got. How many times will you argue with these jokers here? People will say, oh, but why are you commenting on theatre? Because I've done 167 plays, you idiots. How many have you done?
But Suhel, that's the other thing. Do you need to really be an expert on something to comment on it? Because that's another way of silencing people. Is that saying, oh, you're no expert?
Absolutely. So I'm saying you don't need to respond to every barking dog. because barking dogs don't have the bite. Plus, barking dogs don't have the logic. It is, they are seeking relevance. Please go back to one of the finest minds in India, who sadly we have forgotten because he was neither political nor did he belong to the right, left, blah, blah, blah. Jiddu Krishnamurti. Many years ago at Judges Court Road in an open Maidan in Calcutta, he had come to deliver a lecture. There was one guy whose hand went up as soon as the lecture ended. And Jidduji said, he says, yes, son. Yeah, I have a question. He says, no, you don't. He said, no, I have a question. He says, no. You want me to answer a question that is not part of my speech. Why? Because the guy wanted to be known amongst all his, factoids or all his chamchas ki, dekho, Jiddu Krishnamurti ko question pooch liye. Yet I can ask anyone a question. Is the question intelligent? Is the question relevant? Is the question seemingly direction driven? So look, I have no issues with people poking holes or doing things that they need to do. I'm no one to judge. I'm as, junior or as whatever as anyone else is. But on subjects that one knows, either you come back with greater knowledge, with greater efficacy, but don't poke holes for the sake of poking holes. My problem with today's India largely, that's why I'm saying, even that 10% which I talked about is very dangerous. That 10% has never studied. They are not intellectual in any form or substance. You ask any of these jokers, tell me about Premchand, tell me about Dinkar, but ask them for Hrithik Roshan's pet name, they'll say, Duggu. This is the tragedy of India. So these jokers then want to ask you questions. I mean, what the hell, yeah? So point I'm making is have interesting questions. Many years ago, I wrote a book, Get to the Top, where I said, in order to be interesting, be interested. We have stopped being interested. We have
Yeah.
stopped being interested in our own history, in our
Curious,
own
really.
culture, in our own घरानाs of music. आप मुझे कहिए आज हमारे देश में we have such a great repository of culture across the performing arts. We're not doing anything to preserve it. Today, poor artists, Indian classical music artists, have to create shorter versions of a raga because some of the jokers don't have the patience. Why should I get rid of the alap? Why should I get rid? Now, there's a program on Netflix or one of those OTTs called Bandish Bandits with Nasiruddin. Fantastic. Fantastic. But again they'll say, Ki bhai, Bandish Bandits kya hai? Where is murder? So, point I'm making, we are dumbing down, which is not a good thing, especially for a civilizational legacy that we are.
But
That's why I
that
love
seems
Prabha Khaitan Foundation. I'm not doing a plug for them.
yeah.
Sandeep Bhutoria and what the Prabha Khaitan Foundation have done for years, has been fantastic. I'm a Calcuttan and proud Calcutta. I think it's one of the finest cities in the world. Forget Mamata Banerjee and what they're doing to it and what Jyoti Basu did to it. See, politicians have buggered that state beyond repair. So forget that. But I will tell you, Calcutta was and remains the cradle of culture. You have addas where you can talk about things. You may have a contrarian view, but your contrarian view is mired in knowledge. It's not mired in opinion. So I'm saying if we bring that back, it's great. And now every joker like me will say, पर हमारे दिन बड़े अच्छे थे. यार हमारे दिन भी बुरे थे. आप अपने दिन अच्छे कर लो. आप ना तो अपने दिन अच्छे करोगे, ना उन दिनों को याद करोगे जो दिन अच्छे थे. Who was the first person to ban Syed Ludhianvi? Jawaharlal Nehru. Why? Because in Pyasa he wrote the lyrics that he did. Ye kuche, ye galiyan. Why? Because he was questioning. Today, there would have been a cancel culture. What did Habib Tanveer do? What did MF Hussain do? What did all these people do with IPTA? What did Bharat Karnat do? You had great, I worked as an actor with Badal Sarkar. He wrote a brilliant play in Bengali called Michil.
Hmm.
Michil, translated in English, is procession. At the same time, you had Vijay Tendulkar, who had written, and I'm translating in English, Silence, the court is in session. Today, which
Hmm.
Tendulkar do you remember? Sachin.
Hmm.
Now, people
Hmm.
will remember Rabindranath Tagore. Brilliant. I think Tagore and Da Vinci are the only two polymaths in the world. Now, imagine what Tagore did with his short stories. How many
Hmm.
people have read Gora or Hungry Stones? People will read Kabuliwala. You know why? Kabuliwala became a great film.
Hmm.
What did Subhash Ghai say about Satyajit Ray? Oh, that his films sell because they sell the poverty of India.
Hmm.
They did not understand the richness of idea. The Apu trilogy, what he did with Sadgati, what he did in such a brilliant manner, what he did with the chess players, Shatranj ke khiladi. I've acted with Mrinal Sen. I can tell you what a man Mrinal Sen was. He would tell you, Advaita, you have to cry. So I would say, but sir, what are the lines? He says, whatever. He says, when you cry, do you think of lines in your head? You work with stalwarts, then you have some joker saying, oh, but why are you talking about theater? Why are you talking about cinema? You don't, because we've done it. We've
Uh,
actually been through the
but,
grinder. Yeah, we have.
hmm.
In fact, someone just said Shantata Kot Chalu Hai. That was the Marathi title of
Of the
the
play.
uh, of the play by Tendulkar.
Hmm. Hmm.
You had great actors. You had
Hmm.
people who understood theater, who understood cinema. Will you ever be able to get a performance like the one Guru Dutt gave in Pyasa? You won't. Or the movement of romance which emerged in Pakiza. I've stood in line, Advaita, to watch Jeffrey Kendall and Shakespeare Wala,
Hmm.
now
Hmm.
better known as Shashi Kapoor's father-in-law.
Yeah.
I've stood in lines overnight outside in Calcutta to see
Hmm.
Shambhu Mitra perform Galileo. Now, I'm not saying, oh, those were great days, these are terrible days. No. But I'm saying, bring back those days, there'll be less anger.
Hmm.
Bring back scholarship, there will be less rage. So
Hmm.
that's the point.
Hmm. But why do you think we've gotten to this point? Life has become easier. On an average, we become more prosperous. We have more health, access to health facilities. We're living longer. I'm talking about just human beings in general. Why? I mean, things are better than they were 20 years ago, 50 years ago. Things were better than when your parents were teenagers or in their 20s or when mine were. But then why is there so much anger now?
I guess this anger has been created. We are not an angry country. We are actually very good people. And I'm not being condescending. You know,
Hmm.
the poor in this country, as a percentage, give more back in terms of charity than the rich. Manu, in Manu Smriti, 3,900 years ago, whatever, talked about Dan. Today we are looking at the West, at a Warren
Hmm.
Buffett or a Bill Gates.
Hmm.
हमारी जो जो हमारा जो साहित्य है, जो संस्कृति है, जो संस्कार हैं,
Hmm.
they are religion agnostic. They are only purposeful. They are purpose driven. And that's what we've got to understand, Advaita.
Hmm.
That India was always purpose driven. India never had the culture कि भाई इसको मारो या उसको मारो. No.
Hmm.
Sometimes we have to my mind created a situation for ourselves where we embrace anger in order to prove a point. Anger never solves any problem.
Hmm.
Never.
Hmm. Hmm. No, that's that there is a certain point to that, and I think I want to really talk to you also about this instant celebrity that social media serves up. Suddenly you're sitting in your room. I watch a lot of vlogs on YouTube, by the way. Some very interesting, some very ordinary. But Suhail, you'd be surprised that some of these bloggers, there's one from Uttarakhand who lives up in the hills. Within about 10 minutes of putting his vlog out, he'll touch about 2 lakh, 3 lakhs viewers viewers, and then he'll go on to like 18, 20 lakhs on his vlog. And this he started only when the lockdown was announced. So you're literally looking at a year and a half of this journey, in which time the entire lifestyle, he's bought a new home for his family. He comes from a very lower
Superb.
income family. It's amazing. So I mean, the way people are creating content, not just, I mean, Twitter is, yes, there's a lot of bluster and talk over there. But if you look at YouTube, for example, this young kid, he's out there, become a content creator, and gathering this following. It was impossible even 3 years ago.
But that, to my mind, Advaita, is what we should celebrate. I
Yeah.
tweeted about the fact that I was delighted, humbled, proud to be an Indian when I saw the awardees go up and collect their Padmas, some of them.
Most
That, to
of
my
them.
mind, showed most of them actually. That showed me how brilliant the whole selection process had become. It was no longer a cozy club. We will change. We will change. Please remember, as a society, we were comfortable with who we knew and what we knew and the language we spoke. That's slowly breaking down. Today, to my mind, the advent of regional theatre, or the resurgence of regional theatre, will again show up. English theatre, by and large, across India is dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hindi theatre, by and large, is dead. I mean, for some, save some pockets of excellence with NSD and others. But look at regional theatre. Marathi theatre was always numero uno. Bengali theatre, numero uno. Jatra, numero uno. So I have not given up hope. And that's what I'm saying. Ignore the people, who talk rubbish. A lot of people will say, I talk rubbish, fair. That's their opinion. I have to respect it. But I don't have to accept it. See, there's a
Yeah.
difference between respecting an opinion and accepting it.
Bring it. Yeah, no, and a lot of time these social media battles become really about ego, right? It's about, no one's there to change their mind. Everybody's there to prove their point and to get one over you. I I don't know. I mean, apart from, when I think of someone who's active on Twitter and supremely successful, the only person that way is really Elon Musk, right? Because he manages to be really active on Twitter and yet at the same time be successful. But he also gets himself into trouble because he's on social media. He was recently sued for some tweet that he
See,
made. And
it's a knife. You can use it to kill or you can use it to butter your toast. It depends on how you use it. To blame the medium, to my mind, is also a tad unfair. The medium is there for you to use. It's the same thing. People have been over the last couple of days talking about crypto and saying, oh, but you see, crypto will finance terror, will do money laundering. My view has been that, look, you could have said the same about internet. You'd have said the same when Henry Ford created the automobile. That earlier a robber would rob a bank on a bullock cart. Now he has a quicker way to escape. I mean, there's no logic to that.
yeah.
Bin Laden used satellite phones to direct people for 9/11. Technology is purpose agnostic. Remember that, Advaita, and for whoever is listening. You have to make sure that you use technology for the good and not for the evil. There will be some who will use it for the evil. But there are some who are using religion for evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which God tells you to destroy, which God tells you to murder, which God tells you to riot, to incite, to stoke violence. Sometimes you use it. You can't blame God for that, yeah. Tomorrow, someone, I was against, and this LK Advani made this comment. It was a stupid comment when he said all Muslims are not terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims. Why? Terror has no religion. If a
Hmm.
majority of people are from one religion, by casting that religion in the form of terrorism is making things worse.
Hmm.
Yeah, you look at this. How was Sikhism formed? It was formed because there was a lot of grievance and dissatisfaction with the caste system in Hinduism. Today, Sikhism also has layers of caste system. You have Dalit Sikhs, you have Nihangs, you have all kinds.
Hmm.
We've done it.
Yeah.
Guru Nanak Dev Ji hasn't come and done it. We've done it.
Hmm. No, absolutely. And if we move to Instagram for a little bit, you're of course married to a supermodel, so you probably know this answer more deeply. But the lives that people project on social media. Bella Hadid, who is one of the world's supermodels right now, went ahead and posted these images of herself crying, selfies of herself crying. And her message really was that, look, life isn't, this is how I feel very often on evenings. And I go through anxiety and I go through these kind of mental health issues. And I just want to share my real self with all of you. And she has a couple of million followers. What do you make of this now reaction that's coming? Because we've had the good years when Instagram,
See,
Facebook, all,
there'll be a
yeah.
churning Advaita. There'll be a manthan.
Hmm.
There will be a manthan. There will be people who will want to get out of their societally imposed, cauldron of control or a bubble
Hmm.
of control and then express themselves. More power to them, more power to their elbow.
Hmm.
And I'm, as I said, I have no business to judge why people use what media they use. My only concerns are when you have a medium, use it for the larger or the greater good than use it to divide, stoke violence, incite people, get angry, all that nonsense.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah, and I think also, ever since social media has also become a political strategy, we've seen a far more invasive sort of polarizing discourse on social media. Would that be a correct inference from what we're
Absolutely.
seeing
See,
nowadays?
I handled Vajpayee's campaign in 1999. Then I did the thing for Mrs. Dixit, for Sheila ji. At that time, obviously, there was no social media. I'm talking about 1999. Social media has come of age. People are using it, but please remember, only 1.8% of India's population is on Twitter. So if you think the world is changing on Twitter, it isn't. The tragedy is that governments are taking decisions on Twitter. Trump took it to a different level. But if you think that policy is being shaped by Twitter, no, these guys still have to go out and fight elections. I mean, the BJP lost Bengal because of the people on the ground. They didn't lose elections. They would have won elections if it was a Twitter war. So I don't
Hmm.
think, to my mind, it's that, oh, social media will be castigated. I genuinely believe that a lot of people, to my mind, will continue to use social media no matter which field they're in. Today, corporate leaders are using them, politicians are using them, celebrities from the arts are using them, everyone's using them.
Hmm. Hmm.
And a lot of the
Yeah.
negative jokers are using them too.
Yeah, that I think that's not something that's going to really change in the near future or ever. But a lot of times the impact this has on young people, girls and boys. It's leading, especially with girls. You have a young daughter yourself, very young right now to be on social media, I might add. God knows what social media will be when she's old enough to be on it. But there seems to be a lot of body dysmorphia, a fear of other people's successes or an envy of it. Comparing yourself constantly to the other. feeling low self-esteem, increased incidence of depression, anxiety amongst teenagers, because their opening to the world has become social media, and very often Instagram and places like that, where the millennials and all are. I mean, the Twitter is mostly for journalists, politicians, middle-aged people, those kind of that kind of demographic. But Insta and all, which are very visually driven, are really creating these issues amongst the younger generation. How does one, kind of help your child prepare for maybe not having it all, not having that iPhone, not having that car, not having those holidays? How do you deal with it?
That's about parenting. And more parents are abrogating their responsibility to schools. And you have to remember that only one fourth of your time is spent in a school. Where are parents actually going into, the needs of the child, or even sharing reading time? When we were growing up, if you had a tutor, it was a shame.
Yeah,
It was an
yeah.
insult if you told people, "Oh, I have a tutor." It meant that you weren't capable of studying like everyone else on your own. That was
Correct.
privilege. That was entitlement. And more often than not, a lot of people used to have the same tutor who was also the class teacher. So suppose person X is your mathematics teacher in class, you would also use him as your tutor, hoping that when the examination sheet is corrected, he'd be more generous.
Yeah.
Today, I mean, people say, but he has this tutor, this tutor, this tutor, this. So you're replicating the entire school for tuition hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is getting bad to worse.
I mean, there are a lot of these comedy sketches that take place, and they show the millennials and now Gen Z. We've already on to Gen Z, and the way they characterize these sketches is,
I can't hear you.
kids with a mobile phone, and Suhel, you there? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here, but I couldn't hear
Here you
you.
are.
Sorry, what did you say?
I'm saying, they're kind of characterized as this generation who can't lift their heads off the phone screen. I mean, it could be
Let me tell you.
Armageddon. Hmm.
It'll sound, and I'm not being condescending. I'm being genuine. The young people today are far brighter than we were. Far brighter. They are far more aware. They are more cause driven than we've ever been. They will save the planet better than we've ever attempted to save it. A lot of people today, as you rightly said about the vlogger, a lot of people today are genuine stories of non entitled people doing well. So I think it is superb. I salute every young person. I learn more from the young than I can ever hope to teach them. And I promise you, I'm not being condescending. It's the truth. And to my mind, that's how we should be. We should stop this culture in India कि मैं तुमसे बड़ा हूँ, मेरे पास experience है, घंटा experience है. I would never be able to do 1/100th of what, let's say, my nephews can do or what some young people can do. They are more committed. They are more family driven. Surprise, surprise, but that's the truth, Advaita. The creamy layer that we perhaps see are the dilettantes or the rascals, or to use my favorite word, jokers.
Or
But
dorks.
the essential young Indian, to my mind, has his or her heart in the right place. Which is why I will say this, and then we can do. Oh, actually, we don't have very much time. I will say this, and I will
We'll
end my thing only by saying this. I genuinely believe that the idea of India, whatever your idea of India could be through the prism of culture, your idea could be through the prism of written literature, my idea of India could be through its music. That idea of India, no one can destroy. No politician, no political party, nothing. See, Sanskriti and sanskar take multiple tsunamis to destroy. You still, आपके रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं if you're listening to our national anthem. Why? It's not about nationalism. It's not about jingoism. It's about the pride of belonging. It's the pride of being Indian, not being Muslim or Hindu or Christian or Sikh. It is the honor. I tell young people, I said, you should be honored that you're an Indian. So they say, but why? I said, because you are custodians of a civilizational legacy. You're custodians of a culture that has come down the ages. It's a culture born out of resilience. It's a culture born out of ethnicity, identity, whatever it is. Up, many, many years ago, Piyush Pandey, I just joined Ogilvy and we had done Mile Sur Mera Tumhara.
Correct. I remember that.
It was a simple idea. Simple. Where you took the best of the best. So, to my mind, what Bengal and what Calcutta taught me was to embrace every idea with the same level of affection and the same level of distance, if you wish, but never reject it.
Beautiful.
How does Shakespeare end Caesar? Mark Antony says of Brutus, and these are very important words. When Mark Antony is asked to deliver his final speech, he says of Brutus, who earlier had said that it's not that I loved Caesar less, but I loved Rome more. So Shakespeare ends the play by saying, the elements were so mixed in him that nature might stand up and say to all the world, this was a man. But the lines before was his life was gentle. We need to get back to a gentle life. We need to get back to a life which is mired in scholarship and a life that is willing to embrace. I tell young people, they ask me, how do we become successful? How do we do that? I said, read, read, read until you die. Read everything. If
And
you
so,
haven't read Premchand, if you haven't read Dinkar, if you haven't read Tagore, if you haven't read Andre Malraux, if you haven't read Bernard Levy, you haven't read Dawkins, तुमने जिंदगी में किया ही क्या है? If you haven't read Krishnamurti or Osho. So I'm saying there's a lot going for India. I'm delighted that we have foundations like the Prabha Khaitan Foundation. I'm delighted that we use literature to embrace a new civilizational idea of India rather than follow a path of hate, rage, and destruction.
Sohail, since we have you here, I'm going to ask you this question. Uh, how can you use social media to brand and market yourself? If you're a young entrepreneur, if you're somebody who has a restaurant or anything at all, if you want to position yourself in a certain way, how do you use it?
So, number one, you have to be a disruptor. You can't be doing the same thing. The only way you can be a disruptor is if you genuinely believe in what you're doing. So, let's say if I'm a restaurateur, I will also praise the other best butter chicken in Delhi and say, I salute Mughal Mahal for their butter chicken, but at times I think Suresh, who's my head chef, makes it a wee bit better. Remember, you must praise competition in order to. There was that old Ogilvy ad that the only thing ticking in my Rolls Royce or Mercedes, I forget now which one, was the tick of the Omega clock. You have to think differently. I remember launching Harvest Gold bread in Delhi, and we said, Bakwas advertising first class bread.
Right.
Because our advertising was bakwas. Ab advertising se thodi bread khaoge. Go back to the basics, read, 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 absorb, 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 and to hell with the naysayers.
Yeah, yeah, and to ignore the trolls. I think that's a big,
That's why they call trolls. If they were
yeah.
relevant, you would have given them a better name.
And I mean, to writers, they say that, like, I don't know who said it, but somebody said it. I've never met a good writer who's on Twitter.
There are
It's
many
also
good writers on Twitter.
a time suck, huh? By the way,
Yeah,
I mean,
but Dalrymple is on Twitter. Now, you can't say he's a bad writer.
no, I can't. But Rushdie, it seems.
You're on Twitter. You're a good writer.
But Rushdie, I do a lot of other things also, which is another problem with social media. It
See,
makes you a
Rashmi,
general.
now every writer doesn't have to be on Twitter.
No, I'm
So,
saying he had a complicated relationship. No, he's kind of been on Twitter, then he's gotten off, then he's come back.
again, I'm saying we give too much of credence and too much of bhav to all this. आपको आना है आप आओ, नहीं आना नहीं आओ. Simple.
Hmm, hmm. Well, Sahel, it's always such fun to have you in conversation, and I'm glad we got to do this one on one. We usually chat on politics and things like that, and it's been a really hectic
I
week
can't hear you.
when it comes to politics.
Can't hear you at all.
Now I'm here back. I'm back here. I'm sorry. I'm actually traveling for my viewers before they start trolling me here as well. And I know Goa is nice and warm. Probably take a minute. Back as yet. Producer, can you hear
I can
me?
hear you now, but
Am I
very
audible?
fleetingly.
I'm here. I'm here. But Sahil, thank you so much for doing this. And there's a question for you. We should just ask you very quickly. Sahil, in spite of all the backlash faced by some Bollywood celebrities, how come they still managed to bag brand endorsements? Interesting.
I've always been against celebrity endorsements, but people love them. जो बिकता है वो यूज करते हैं लोग. I agree with you. I wouldn't want to spend crores and crores of rupees giving them endorsement fees, but that's what sells. That's what it is. It's tragic. I have been the one person in advertising and marketing for years who has said if your brand is good, you don't need a celebrity. Did Amul need a celebrity? No. When Hero Motorcorp started, no. But now in all this, they say, oh, it's a clutter breaking device. It's all poppycock. It's all bullshit. I think it's the lazy marketeer who wants brand endorsers to come in so that they don't have to create memorable communication. You remember that Cadbury's ad where the girl goes into a jig? So it's all very different. Advaita, you must get a better internet connection or move cities.
I am in a, like I said, I'm in a hotel. It's a good hotel, but clearly the internet is not as good as the hotel. What does one do? But we had to have this conversation because it's such a pleasure to have you with us on these topics and all the other topics. And really, I think the contribution that you make to public discourse is always refreshing, always interesting, always funny,
Thank you
but
for having me.
nevertheless intelligent, always intelligent and insightful. And that's why you're on prime time now for the past 3 decades, or since TV started in India.
Yeah, it's actually sad because now someone on the comment said, You've said idiots, but you're with idiots every evening. I'm sorry, they might think the same of me, which is fine. A lot of people in India might think, oh, Suhel has come, another idiot talking on something. Fine. But as I said, they don't invite you, they invite me. Till then, theek hai.
And you
See,
missed a
remember
part.
one thing, what Calcutta actually teaches you
Hmm.
is to have a very realistic impression of yourself. And your people say, oh यार आपने तो बहुत बड़े किसी ने कुछ नहीं किया और सब जाएंगे
Hmm.
जब तक आप हैं करते जाइए
True.
सो किसी ने कुछ नहीं किया Modi will go on as Nehru went, as Indira. You think everything is going to remain the same? No. But I'm saying, just as a proud and a loving Indian, that ये जो हमारी संस्कृति और संस्कार हैं, that will keep us in good stead and in fine fettle.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's what I genuinely believe.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. True.
And I
And
think I think as I go along, I'm 58. I'm in the last 20 years of my life. I think it's a life well lived. I didn't imagine. Who imagined? Promise you, I never, as you kept going, my first job was 650 rupees in 1990 in Ogilvy. 1990, for God's sake. So who imagined कि आप क्या करोगे? And never expect, because the day you expect, you will under receive.
hmm.
All
Okay.
ultimately, you just have to be happy with what you have, because you're never too rich or never too thin.
That is so true. I mean, Sohail, you've of course lost a very dear friend of yours. We had a show on him as well, Arun Jaitley, who really had reached the peak of his career and many, many years of being in politics when he was unfortunately struck by an illness which claimed him. So I think you've seen this very up close and personal as well, that when you say ki sab jayenge. Hmm.
I lost my mother. She was my
You lost your
closest
mother
friend, my
recently. Yeah.
my only support. And people would ask me, "Does your mother live with you?" I said, "No, I live with my mother."
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I lost my dad in 2015. They were, to my mind, they have been life-altering moments for me. But
Hmm.
I have taken recourse to reading. I have taken recourse to distracting myself by being immersed in my family and by traveling.
Hmm.
You do these things, yeah, because you also know logically and practically that we are not going to be here all
Hmm.
through.
Yeah.
So political correctness and saying the right thing to please will also not serve any purpose, because then you'll be lying to yourself.
Hmm. Yep. And it takes a certain amount of bravery to be able to do that. Despite knowing कि कोई अमृत पी के नहीं आया है, but
Yeah.
फिर भी, you know, to do that still takes courage. But thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
Advaita, and thank you, the Prabha Khetan Foundation, Anandita and Anjum. Thank you
yeah,
for having me, and it's always a pleasure.
thank you. Take care of your cough and hope to see you soon in person. And of course, back on the channel because we had so many political questions even before was started. Everybody wants to know what your view on the farm law is, all of that. So we have to do another show with that, and
Done.
we'll
Done.
do it. But thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you once again, Prabha Khetan Foundation, for hosting these really special conversations that give us an opportunity to speak with achievers and people like Suhail. Same thing. I didn't mean to say achievers and people like Suhail, but achievers like Suhail to get an insight into what makes them tick, how they view life, and how they conquer the many challenges that life throws our way. So thank you, Prabha Ketan Foundation. Thank you to our viewers as always. We've had a great.
And I apologize if I've been sarcastic about anyone who asked a question. That's how I am.
You have been, but that's okay. I think they know that now. But I must say, we started Tete Teas recently, not had too many sessions, but this one has had the maximum number of live views. And a lot of that has to do with you, Suhail. People can't get enough of you, and I'm sure that they'll come back to watch the video as well. So thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Advaita. Stay safe, stay well. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Anandita and Anjum. Thank you.
Thank you.